Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Endurance Physio Podcast. My name is Dr. Sam Rockwater. I'm joined here with Dr. Will Gonzaba. Will, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Sam.
Good, man. Good. Um, Today's episode, I'm actually super excited. It's a really fun one. It's something that I know we text back and forth a lot about, but but
All the
we're
time.
doing all the time, man, all the time, all the equipment, all the fun stuff. We're essentially doing a hot or not 2024 edition for endurance equipment and endurance athletes and endurance topics. So today, the goal is that will have 3 items that are hot and 3 items that are not. And I will also have 3 items that are hot and 3 items that are not. So, Will, let's start it out, man. Give me
Let's
your
do it.
first hot trend of 2024.
This is a big one. And I will say with this, maybe this is not as trendy in 24. Maybe I think it maybe started to become trendy maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. But nonetheless, I think I've been on this for a little while. And that's just a really solid multi-purpose bike. And what I mean by that are gravel bikes or cross bikes that have just become so much more mainstream and have the capabilities to do so much. And I'll rewind a little bit because it is kind of ironic that you and I have been talking back and forth about all the different new bikes that I want. and so
Hey, man,
we haven't
that
really
list is
talked.
never ending, Will.
It really is. I mean, and I'll kind of like backstory is, and I haven't really explained too much of the training that I do myself, but my main discipline for training was cyclocross for years, and even now, that's probably the one that I care the most about. And I think it's probably around 2018 or so. I had a 2 by Giant TCX. That's their cross bike, and man, I loved it. And it was fine for group rides. I didn't really care if I was where I was within the pack. Like it was great for training, great for racing. It was perfect. And kind of ever since then, I have just stayed on a cross bike. Any road bike I had, I eventually sold it because I was like, I don't really like riding this very much. So about 2 years ago, I think it was maybe 2021. I really was getting into these custom steel frame bikes. You and I did a couple trips up to Portland and up in the Pacific Northwest. These semi-custom or full custom bikes. They just really speak to me.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I like the classic aesthetic. It's never going to look old. They're highly capable. You can throw slicks on them. They ride great. They ride really smooth on dirt with some knobs. And so I really feel like you can't go wrong with it. So my number one trend, what was hot for me, are multi-purpose bikes. Specifically, what I had made 2 years ago was a bike from the bike manufacturer called Gunner, which actually just went out of business like 2 weeks
So
ago,
sad.
2 weeks
So
ago.
sad.
Did you know about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
did. I heard about
so
that. So sad. They're awesome bikes. So
they
it's
really are
a
awesome
shame.
bikes, man. And like that. So I have a Gunner HyperX, which is their cross bike. And so for me, just the way that thing rides, I like my cross bike to not be super twitchy. That just complements my riding style. But I don't want it to feel sluggish around a corner. And that Gunner just really checks the box on that. So just a great bike. Super happy that I got it when I did. The paint job on it was sick. So, I think too, when you're looking at getting new road bikes or just bikes in general, the price tag on these bikes are just going up and up and up from the big box bike brands, right? Trek,
It's
Specialized. I mean,
astronomical right now. It's
it's
unreal.
insane, man. It's insane. Like I feel like if you're looking at a mid-range bike, it's like $5,000 or $6,000. And back in the day, well, not too long ago, it felt like that was almost the top end bike was maybe like $7,000. So it's really gone up a lot. And I bring that up because when you look at some of these smaller bike builders, I mean, if you're going to be spending over $7,000, like you might be able to get a semi-custom bike that rides exactly the way you want, with paint exactly the way you want. And so I think that you should consider those type of things. Obviously, everyone's riding style and training style is going to be different. So that might not be a blanket statement for everybody, but I do think that a really solid multi-purpose bike can check a lot of boxes and be a ton of fun to ride. So that's my number one.
Love it. Love it.
So
Um, yeah, my
yeah,
number
so
one, or I guess I'm not in any particular order here.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
Agreed.
the number one thing that I have kind of really noticed is that a lot of the clothing companies are moving away from the crazy patterns and the super flashy stuff, and everything is becoming more like simple colors, and like single color jerseys and stuff like that, for cycling and for like clothing and running and stuff like that. Like everything isn't hot and flashy anymore, and I noticed that it's been a movement kind of more towards like really clean lines, clean aesthetics. And I think that's partially due to social media and the
Sure.
branding and stuff that everyone is kind of going towards on social media. But it's a super quick and simple one, but
Let me
it
ask you
is
this though.
also, I think, a hot trick. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, well, what's your favorite apparel brand for the bike, for cycling apparel?
Oh man, there's a lot.
Number
There's a
one,
lot.
number
I
one.
would Man, you're putting me on the spot here. I feel I feel bad because I've been a Pactimo ambassador for years now, and so
Pactimo has great stuff.
I definitely I definitely like their stuff. They're definitely moving in towards like the simple colors and stuff like that. They still have some wild designs, but I would say Pactimo is one. I've talked to Zoot before, um, as well. I like Zoot because they're also a little bit on the wild side, but they're kind of taming that down as well this year.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of like bibs and stuff like that, like nothing takes the cake like a good pair of Assos bibs. They're
Oh
wonderful.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So,
for sure.
they yeah, they you shed a little tear when you buy them, because they cost so much. But after that though, they're absolutely awesome and they're definitely
They
worth the
la-
money.
they
But
last a while too, right? That's why I always like
that's a
I
long
hate
time.
buying bibs, but they should last you a very long time. So if you think about it, like compared to any other piece of clothing you get, like okay, it was a couple $100, but you should have it for a couple years if you take good care of it. Should.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. What's your hot
Good
number
choices.
two, Will?
My hot number
Give me number
two,
two.
I'm gonna, I'm gonna actually say this was probably my number one for 2023. I know we're not doing this in order, but and I'm actually reflecting back and thinking of all the new shit that I got last year. What was my favorite? Man, a really solid set of cycling lights. And so when yeah, I've got two younger kids, 1 and 3. We haven't really talked about this yet in the show, but my time for writing tends to be like super ass early or super ass late. And my tolerance for writing inside has just dwindled over the years. Like I need to go outside. And so I went to go write some single
Me
track.
too, man.
You
Me
know,
too.
it's not, I mean, I'll do it. You got to do it sometimes, but it's more fun to be outside. So I went out for a trail ride a couple weeks or about a couple months ago, and man, like I just had the single like light on my handlebar, and I don't even know what the lumens are. Like I don't get that techie with it, but I would say like it was a pretty good one. It was like kind of expensive, like $100. And man, in the trails, like it's garbage. Like if you don't have a light on your helmet, like that one little light on your handlebar, like that's just a joke. Like you can, like you can't only see you can only
Doesn't
see
cut
like
it.
2 feet in front of you. Doesn't cut it. So I asked some of my buddies, my mountain biking friends, what the best lights were, and they recommended this company called Outbound Lighting, and they're more made for mountain bikers, and because the I guess the view of the light or the span at which that light cast onto the trail
The
is
beam.
massive.
Yeah.
Like the beam is huge. It's like almost 180 around you, right? That's what it feels like. And so they have two different ones, one that mounts to your head, one that mounts to the bar. You can buy them together in a package that's called the Downhill package if you're curious. So the Downhill package by Outbound Lighting, that has totally been a game changer for my riding early in the morning and late at night. It's so bright and it is pricey, but it's worth it. I think that package was maybe
Worth
around
it
like
though.
400. It was around like $400, but dude, like you're gonna feel like you're riding under stadium lights. Like you're not impaired at all. So it's great. Highly recommend.
Mountain biking with
Um,
good lights is so underrated. It is awesome. Awesome.
it's fun. Then it's
Sweet.
like okay, it's like fun to be outside. What's your number two?
My number two.
Your
Um,
number two.
Grassroots racing is number two for me.
That's a good
So
one.
I think grassroots racing, I think it's going to make a comeback. and I don't know if maybe this is just me personal opinion, but it feels like the the fees for races have just blown up. And fees for people to travel to races and like do all these races, it's astronomical. Like I looked at an Ironman, like it's insane. It's like $800
Holy
for
shit,
like the
that's
base
crazy.
package, or for like just getting, it's nuts. So like to do an Ironman will cost somebody between like training, fueling, nutrition, all that stuff. It's going to cost somebody like 5 grand.
Damn.
Which to do a single race or maybe two races or whatever, it's getting out of hand. And so for me, I think grassroots racing is going to make a little bit of a comeback, mainly because it's going to be a little bit more local. It's going to be like kind of more of like a meetup group ride type of thing, but a little bit more like have aid stations and stuff like that. But I think some
Mhm.
grassroots racing is primed to make a comeback in 2024, just due to people starting to get really frustrated with the price of these like big races and corporations buying up big races. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with them. Don't get me wrong. I go to big races all the time. I have a I have a T-shirt for the Lutsen 99er, which is owned by Lifetime Fitness, which is a big corporation. Absolutely love that race, but they have also kept it kind of small and a little bit more affordable, a little bit more affordable. Um, but I think grassroots racing is going to make a little bit of a comeback in 2024.
Dude,
That's my thought.
I really like that. I didn't when I was looking at your list, I didn't like pay attention to that on there. But man, I've that's been a big thing for me over the past 2 or 3 years, because I think I'm sure it's like this in Arizona too, but man, in Texas and I'm in San Antonio, like between here and Austin, the surrounding hill country, like there's so much epic stuff to do every year. Whether you're into trail running, road running, triathlon, marathon mountain biking. Like there's some really epic hard races that are within 2 hours from your door. So, I do think it can be very easy to get caught up in the hype of these really big events, which are cool. Like they're
and and
definitely
and they're
experiences to
fun.
go
They're
do. They're
so much
fun
fun.
because there's a lot of
They're so much
energy at
fun.
these big events, right? People coming from all over the place. They're a
Mm-hmm.
ton of fun. You should go do them. I think maybe one a year, if that works, one every 2 years. Like you totally should. It's a good
Yeah.
training. Something to keep you motivated for training. But like, don't forget your backyard stuff because it is so much fun, especially if you really get out there to explore. And I think too, like not even just grassroots racing, but just like backyard adventures. Like one of my good buddies here, he's a big ultra marathoner and kind of just a crazy endurance guy. And he'll just be like, yeah, like I'm gonna do 10 laps at McAllister Park. That's like a 10-mile loop, and he'll just like bust out like a Mac 100 like on a random day, or do like 100 miles on the power lines, which are a training segment out here, right? Like, just don't forget the stuff that's in your backyard that you can make epic as well.
Yeah.
Good number two,
Well, have you
Sam.
ever heard of thank you. Have you ever heard, just kind of a little side tangent here. Have you ever
Uh-huh.
heard of, it's called a backyard ultra
Yeah, yeah. That's the 4 miles every hour for as long as you can
for
go
48 hours?
for 48
Yeah.
hours. Damn.
For
Yeah.
48 hours. It's an dude, ultra
It,
marathoners on a whole new level. Whole another mental
dude,
level than me. But
I've seen a couple of people who have done backyard ultras. I thought that you just went to like 100 miles or until whatever. Maybe they have different variations. I don't know. But it
I'm
is
sure there's
pretty
different
wild.
variations of it.
Yeah, it is pretty wild.
Yeah.
What's the
Will,
long
hit me with your hot number
Okay,
3.
okay.
Go ahead.
Can
Oh,
we
you were
wait?
gonna
Just
ask.
no, no,
You were
no.
gonna ask.
Let's just table this topic. We should definitely do something on ultra
Should definitely talk
marathoning
about
in
it
the
more.
future. Yeah, let's talk about that more. That
Yes.
was fun. Okay, my number 3 on my hot list, but could also be on my not list depending on the functionality, is the Garmin Live Track link and the Strava Beacon tracking feature. And so for you all who don't know, basically what these are live tracking links that you can send to somebody while you're out training. So like if you pay for Strava Beacon, then basically like when you start a ride, it'll say, hey, do you want to notify someone of your ride? You send them you'll say yes. It'll send them a text with a link where they can track you while you're out on your ride. And so for my wife and I, like that has been a big source of peace of mind for her. When I use it, a lot of times I forget to use it, or I'm sure we've all been in that situation where maybe like your phone dies, so the Strava link doesn't work, or maybe you just don't start Strava, you only use your Garmin. Sometimes I track on both at the same time, so it can be, spotty functionality. Sometimes that's user error, sometimes that's product error. But I do think that it is best practice if you're going to be out doing training rides, to let somebody know like where you are, and runs too, right? Just to be safe. I know it's
Yeah.
ever more dangerous to ride on the road these days. So being as safe as you can is paramount. So that's my number
Yeah.
3 is that safety feature.
Wahoo also, if you use a Wahoo head unit, they also have that feature as well.
Oh, sure.
Just for you Wahoo cycling
Yeah.
users out there. Yeah, and the Strava Beacon is a premium feature as well, so you have to have
Mhm.
Strava premium for
Right.
it. But Garmin Live Track, I believe, is a free feature, correct?
It is feature. Yeah, it is free. It is free.
Okay,
And
cool.
I think
Yeah, so
The Wahoo
on
one's
your
free
watch.
too.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Garmin you can use on your watch if you're a runner, or on your Garmin head unit if you're a cyclist. So
Solid.
awesome.
All right, man.
My number one, absolute number one hot trend of 2024 is Zone 2. Zone 2 training for life.
Just in general.
Yeah, just in general.
General
Always
Zone 2.
training for Zone 2 for life. No, for Zone. So, I would say Zone 2 is been a really big hot topic that has come about. I know in early January, I went to it's called the Endurance Exchange. It's with Team USA Triathlon, and USA Cycling is also there, and they talked about Zone 2 a ton. And so I definitely think we will all be seeing a little bit more Zone 2 in the near future, if we haven't already. But a lot of articles coming out about Zone 2, about its benefits, and also to how to train in Zone 2. For those of you that don't know what Zone 2 is, essentially you can break up into heart rate zones. There's several different systems. There's a 5-zone, 7-zone, I believe, as well. Most people use a 5-zone, and Zone 2 is essentially that second zone up. So Zone 1 is like, you can still definitely talk pretty easily, and in Zone 2 you can still talk, but it's a little bit harder, but you're not necessarily out of breath and you can't talk in that zone. So there's a calculation, there's all sorts of calculation tools on the interwebs about that, but Zone 2, I believe, is the number one hot topic for myself for 2024. So
yeah, totally agree with you, man. Totally agree. Well,
it's coming, whether we like it or not.
I mean, I think it's a good thing. I think you think about our roles as PTs. Probably one of the biggest things that we see in training errors are people going too hard, and too much, maybe
Yes.
too much of going hard, right? So too much intensity, or just too high of intensity, right? And so I think the more mainstream doing the easier training is, hopefully that carries over into less injuries. But we'll see.
Yes,
you can overdo anything, I suppose.
Cross the fingers.
So all right, man. Let's get into our knots, shall we? I'll kick it off with a knot for me.
You want to go
this
first?
Wasn't necessarily. Yeah, I'm skipping you. I'm going first. Okay.
Go for it.
All right. So this is for me personally. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me, but I'm going to throw the Whoop strap out there. That was just not for me. Hot take. That was just not for me. And here it is. I'm going to really emphasize saying not for me, not that it was not cool or that I could not see where its purpose is. But I'll let you chime in a little bit more on maybe some of the Whoop functionality, and I'll just say as a general statements, because I'm not a huge Whoop user, obviously, or I don't use it. But basically, it's sure. a wearable technology that's going to let you know how recovered you are every day. So it's going to factor in the amount of strain that you put your body through exercise and through your daily activities, match that up with how you're recovering overnight, and it's going to give you a GO score or something like that. So it's going to say, hey, your body is primed for a hard workout, or hey, maybe you should chill today, like your recovery was pretty low, like take it easy. I'll say the things that worked really well for me with Whoop was understanding my sleep patterns and how my habits during the day affected my sleep. And so the big one with that for me
Yes.
was
Yes.
alcohol, right? And I don't drink a lot, but if I noticed that just having one singular beer in the evening from 7 o'clock on would really throw off my sleep, and then thus result in a poor recovery score. So that was a big takeaway for me, and that did change my habit. So I did get something positive out of it. Where I got stuck with Whoop was on a couple levels, but for me was that just with the stage of life that I'm in, with the two kids and being a business owner, like, and trying to still train competitively, is I don't have a lot of wiggle room to switch around a workout, right? So if I have a Whoop score that says today is not your day to go hard, but I have an interval session, like, well, sorry, like I'm doing it, like I have to get it done, right? And so I felt like that didn't work for me if that's how you're intending to use it. Um, I also just couldn't really drive with the monthly subscription thing. I probably would have kept it even if it was an expensive one-time purchase. I probably would have kept it. But being that it wasn't, and I thought that my habits had already changed enough from using it, I just discontinued using it. So that's my take. So I'm not
Sure.
saying it's garbage. I'm sure people love it. That's just my take on it.
Yeah. Will, how long did you wear Whoop for?
I think it was less than a year. I think it was about 9 months. And it was my
Okay.
first 9 months of
Yeah, you
childhood,
can.
not childhood, of adulthood, of no, parenthood, not childhood, not
Parenthood.
adulthood, parenthood. I was a child actually.
Parenthood. Parenthood.
Yeah, parenthood. That's
I
what I'm trying
love
to
it.
say. So it was actually a while ago.
Awesome.
It wasn't this past year.
Yeah,
Um,
I had a Whoop for like 15 months. I really enjoyed it. I can totally 100% see where you can get in your head with that recovery score. And where you can really be like, oh crap, like my HRV is terrible. I'm not going to perform well today. I think it is something that, like, I think tracking HRV is good, but
mhm,
having to know that there's a range of where athletes will sit. Um, and each individual has a different range of their like HRV, right? So for example, like I in Whoop, you're able also to have like group feature, and one of my buddies has an insanely high HRV, like over 120, like 5 consistently. So he ranges anywhere from like 110 to 135. My highest HRV ever was like 83.
mm,
And so like, and that was like totally not training, like totally recovered, no booze, no nothing like that. And I can totally see where you can get that in your head, but I know my HRV like range, and based off that, I can dictate like when I'm sick, like, or if I'm about to be sick. It's actually a crazy predictor
mm,
of that, I found out.
mhm,
Um, but then also too, like where my range is, and essentially like, okay, if I'm out of range, like, all right, I am feeling a little bit tired today, maybe I need to back off a little bit. But there are also times where I'm like, okay, I'm in range, I still feel like crap, but I need to get this workout done, right? this
right,
this interval session or whatever it is. So I can
right.
see it. A hot
Yep.
take, Will, I love it. It's a
I'll
hot
take.
take.
Of course.
um
All right, Sammy, hit
of
us.
course.
What's your number one
um
not, or your first not?
uh no, Number one on the first one on the list, I will put, is prices of clothing, in particular where it relates to endurance clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So bike jerseys, bibs, run clothing, running shoes. Good Lord. Those prices are just like, it's like $150 for a pair of running shoes these days. It's
Oh yeah,
unreal.
man. I
Um,
mean,
and and I know, people are gonna be like, oh well, inflation and whatever, you're just cheap. No, it's some of the stuff is getting a little out of hand.
yeah.
Like I found this like really cool cycling jersey, and I was like, oh, that looks awesome. And I was like, mesh, it'll be great for Arizona, especially in the summer, when and it has mesh, but it's also UV protectant, great. And I looked at it and it was like $280 for a jersey.
Oh,
And
Jesus Christ.
I was like, no, I can't.
No.
I can't. So my number one not hot of 2024 is the price of endurance clothing, and
Yeah.
how that is getting high. There's so many brands out there now, that there should be more competition and therefore better pricing. And it seems like people are creating more brands and then they are trying to make more money off of it because
Right.
they are seeing that the price of clothing is going up. So
We
that is good.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, I agree with you, and you almost see. I think with both running and cycling, some of the apparel is getting more like fashion oriented, right? That's why they look sick, and so you
Yes,
kind of see like this high end
100%.
like fashion price tag on this designer cycling, designer run gear. And
Quote
you know what I
unquote.
think
Yeah.
is kind of crazy is I think probably I know you definitely have a few like team kits. Maybe they're like Verge or Castelli. And when you buy those
Mhm.
through a team, dude, the prices are like so much less, and those are custom jerseys, right? You know what I mean? For the most part,
Yes.
right?
Custom jerseys are now less than
It's like
stock jerseys.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like a $60 or
it's
$70
it's
jersey, and
it's stupid.
dude,
Stupid.
like I can wear that compared to my. I'll say I rarely buy jerseys or most any apparel really at whole at that's not on sale. But if you compare that custom jersey versus like a Rafa jersey or something like that, sometimes that custom jersey is like so much more comfortable and it's cheaper. So I don't know. I don't think the price tag always follows the quality. I'm gonna hop off
Yeah.
of hop onto what you said and kind of segue into my number two. Not is singular use
Fire.
training apparel, and so here's what I mean by this: is like uh, sometimes some things have to be singular use, right? Like your bib, you're not going to go for a run in your bib. Your jersey, you're not going to go for a run in your cycling jersey. I'm thinking more of like maybe your running t-shirts or your shorts that you run in, things like that. Every athlete is going to need some gear that is specifically for your sport. But I think a lot of the training gear, the t-shirts that you wear, that you work out in, that you run in, um, they should also like be able to function for other things that you do. And so this is going to go on kind of the opposite end of what we're saying with prices. So one thing that I've been okay with spending money on recently in the past year are like Lululemon shirts and shorts. Dude, they're expensive, but like I literally wear the hell out of them all the time because like Lululemon, like I forget even the t-shirts that I wear. I think it's the License to Train shirt and the License to Train short. I really like those because I can like wear them to clinic and they look super professional with
Yes.
pants like
Yes.
with joggers or whatever, and I can go train in them when it's 110 degrees outside and it's comfortable for that. You dress them up, dress them down, right? So yeah, the shirt was $80. That sucks. But like I have two of them and I wear them all the time. So that is my point where I think it's more of a more use, right? For it. Like it's expensive, but like I get to use it for a lot of things. So um I try not to like pigeonhole myself into like an $80, running tank that like I can only wear for running. So that's me.
Right on.
So
Nothing wrong with that.
contrast there.
I think. Yeah. I mean, I think it's. I think people pick and choose where to spend their money. I agree. Like, if you're going to spend your money, like I either spend it on bibs, number one
Mhm.
for cycling, because a good pair of bibs is amazing. Or I will try and find something that is not like one singular use, like what you're
Mhm.
mentioning as well. Like if I'm going to spend money on it. But yeah, I understand. I understand what you're getting at for sure.
Cool.
My not number two. Um, and this is probably going to be a little bit of a hot take here. Electronic group sets. RIP mechanical group sets. They are kind of going out
Mhm.
of style apparently. For those of you that know or don't know the difference between electronic and mechanical group sets, electronic group set is the shifters on your bike, shifters and derailleurs on your bike, which essentially change the gears. There's been a strong shift towards electronic groups. And they are starting to not make mechanical groups. Mechanical groups are shifters and derailleurs that use a cable, and essentially that shifter pulls that cable, and that allows you to shift the gears. Um, The good about electronic is that the crisp shifts are wonderful. It hardly ever misshifts, which is really nice. The downside is that your battery can die halfway through a ride, which I don't
Yes,
know
it
about
can.
you, Will, but I've had that happen multiple times.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and the other thing too is mechanical group sets. Um, they're cheaper. They're cheaper to make because they've been around for so long. They don't require electronic components. They don't require charging. They will always work because there is no dead batteries to have. And also too, I think the biggest thing is if you want to really grow and expand the sport of cycling, you can't have a $3,000 entry level gravel bike.
Hmm.
It's just not gonna if you're kind of on the fence about like trying cycling, it's probably not gonna work because
Yeah.
I don't know, $3,000 for something that you're really not sure that you like. Plus then you have pedals and shoes and helmet and all
Hmm.
that stuff,
Hmm.
right? It's like $4,000 to get you into a sport versus running, say for example, buy a pair of $150 shoes, like 130, 120, whatever, dollars shoes, and you go out and you run in your shorts and your t-shirt that you already have, right? So
Right.
the entry level and the entry barrier to running is so minimal versus cycling is becoming much higher. If more stock bikes were, or if more bikes from the manufacturer came stock with mechanical groups, I think that would encourage people to ride more because of the
Yeah.
price point and people who are kind of on the fence. So
That's a really good point.
as
That's
much
a
as
really good point.
I absolutely love electronic group sets. Let me just put that out
Hmm.
there. I absolutely love electronic group sets. I have it on most of my bikes. But I do think that there is a need to continue mechanical group sets for sure.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point about the price, and I haven't really considered that at all. But kind of going off what we were saying earlier, just the price of bikes being stupid high. I just got um, an electronic group set on my gunner last year, I think.
Oh,
So
it's
I've
the
been a
best.
cyclist for like
It's the best.
over 10 years, man. And before I finally upgraded to that, but I will say prior to it, so I've got the SRAM Force Axis group set on it now, which is great. But prior to that, it was just mechanical SRAM Force One, and man, like when that thing was like tuned well, that shifting was crisp, and like I still kind of
It
like
was
that
awesome.
feedback you would get, like the pop 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 pop.
Little click.
It
Little click.
doesn't
Pop, pop.
shift as fast as the electronic, but it was still really great. So I think there still is definitely a place for it, especially if it's going to lower the price point to getting people on bikes.
Yeah. More butts on
I
bikes,
will,
better.
yeah, yeah. um, all right, man. So I will hop in with my last knot. Um, this is, I think, more of maybe a mindset thing. So as much as I love equipment, it does really eat. Yeah, you get at me when people over fixate on equipment upgrades versus prioritizing just solid training and recovery. Kind of going off of our last podcast, like those recovery basics. So equipment is fun, and it has good equipment is great, and I think that you should invest in quality equipment. But you know, you equipment it's a rabbit hole, right? Like you get new things, like let's say a new wheel set or something, and you're like, oh cool, like I'm set, like I got everything, but then you don't. Like it's just a matter of time before like you feel
There's
like you
that
need
carrot,
something
man.
else.
That carrot
There's
dangles out in
there's
front of you.
carrot,
Yeah,
yeah,
that carrot
and
dangles.
and listen, I can do that too, Sam. You know this because I send you a new bike that I want almost every other day. Every other
Also
day.
true. Can
Also
confirm.
true. But I will say to my benefit that I like I know like I want the bike just so I could like go on group rides or whatever the reason why I might want that thing. I rarely ever buy it, but I recognize the real things in sport and in performance are solid, consistent training and good recovery habits. And if I can afford a new bike every couple of years, awesome. But don't overemphasize the equipment that you have. Like have something that's sound, that can get the job done, that's comfortable, that fits you well, whether that's shoes or a bike. But don't sell yourself short if you're not on the highest end road bike, right? Because that's just not very attainable for most people. You can be a really solid cyclist on an entry level bike if you do those other things well, right? So don't sell yourself
Absolutely.
short if you're not in that category. All right,
I
Sam.
mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Will. Correct me if I'm wrong. I first got into cycling. I had a piece of crap bike, but I
Mm-hmm.
loved it and I rode the hell out of it. And it was a ton of fun. And, like, that's really what cut my teeth on it. I'm sure you were probably the same way, because I imagine you were probably in college like I was,
Yep.
and you couldn't afford anything else. So there's
Yep.
that too.
Yep. Yep. Exactly right. Exactly right, man.
But
So I think,
yeah,
yeah, it's one of those things. If you're going to be doing it for a while, you've got time to make upgrades as you go, and I think you can just do it slowly. You don't have to like go from an entry level bike to an S Works. You can just make small upgrades and resell bikes and this and that, and over time, like your bike should be getting nicer and nicer, if that's what you want.
yeah,
All
absolutely,
right,
man.
Sam. All right, Sam. What you got
All right.
for your last knot?
My last knot. What is not hot or not a big trend is using Chat GPT or other AI for training, endurance, strength training, nutrition, and all the above plans. Um, I know that that Chat GPT is here and everyone is using it, and I know that there are still definitely some kinks to it.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it can give you a very generalized training program. If you are just starting, it can give you a very generalized nutrition program. It can give you a very generalized strength program. If you are just getting into it, or you are literally like, hey, I've never done strength training before. I just want to like start with something basic. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of money. I just want something free to try it out. Great, go for it. The nice thing is that now there are a lot of different programs out there for strength training, and that you're able to like hop on and do that. But same with like endurance programs. Like I believe Training Peaks website has a whole bunch of training programs that are somewhat vetted. Or at least they're made by endurance coaches. Whether vetted or not is maybe a different question. But that is something that I think is very important as we kind of move forward with the whole Chat GPT and machine learning and stuff like that, is that those training programs are not perfect, nor will they be anytime in the near future. And that is, I believe, why coaches will always have a place in the endurance world, is because like you just can't replace A, human emotion, but B, also too, you can't determine how somebody's feeling and how somebody's progressing and that kind of thing through a machine. So Chat
Yeah.
GPT for training programs and endurance programs is my top knot of 2024.
That was a good one. That was a good one. I do love ChatGPT for a lot of things. It helps us out in business a lot, but we don't use it for that, obviously. It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy to think about that. I mean, I think even like you look at the challenge of even taking a generic plan from like a book, or like someone who maybe has a little bit of knowledge that writes one up, or even a lot of knowledge and writes up a good generic plan, and applying that. Like there's even a lot of people that I see that doesn't work for them, because like you said, everybody's different. Like you all have so many life events to juggle amongst training, and like a generic plan can't really account for that. And certainly like a
Yeah.
computer, at least right now, can't do that.
Yeah. I do know that there's certain training platforms that utilize some machine learning and AI. But you're right. You just can't do
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah, you just can't.
awesome. Well, Will, that was an awesome episode. I know I really enjoyed that one. And a lot of
Me
those
too.
topics too, I think we should dive deep into in the future. But yeah, that was fun. We will see at the end of 2024 if we were correct in our hot or not. My guess is that we probably will not be correct, but I think there are some things that are going to resonate with our audience, and probably will actually be correct. So
We'll see.
that's awesome. We'll see. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening. Please like, subscribe. This will be up on our wonderful YouTube channel as well. And I know giving a review is always helpful. So please give a 5-star on whatever platform, or if you really want to be a superstar, you can do it on multiple platforms. Otherwise, guys, we will see you later. Happy training and see you next time.
See ya.